Hello, good morning. Welcome to my project management presentation. Today I will talk about risks. Um, I will give examples, but first let's talk about general what is really risk identifications, more or less the principles of how to deal with it. So, what are the principles of risk management? The first thing is risk identification. So, documented. We have to document all potential risks, and that may affect the project objectives and outcomes. So, anything that really stops you achieving your outcomes are risks that really need to be identified. And risks are events that really happens. It can be a positive and negative as well. Okay, so it is a sort of we have to identify those events. So the first things we need to do in terms of the principles are what are the risks? How do we really gonna identify? We're gonna have a look at those ones. What are the real risk assessments? So evaluate the likelihood and potential impact of each identified risk. So we have to really prioritize all events, all risks are not equal. There are some risks which really requires your full attention, will have a huge impact on the outcomes of the project, and it is some might really have got an effect on the project but might not really sort of drastic impact on the outcomes. So once we really get the identification, these are the really important risks, and then the risk assessment is going to tell us the extent what each risk is really impact and how do we really evaluate that in terms of its occurrence, its probability, and it is the our ability to identify it, our ability to uh, prepare a plan for it and plan a mitigating measures so that risks are minimized as much as possible. And just to really make sure that this likelihood of happening is really reduced to start with, and then once it really happens, what we're going to do about it. So those are sort of risk mitigation, and then we have to really monitor risks continuously throughout the uh, life cycle of the project itself. So during this, we need to really communicate to stakeholders regarding the potential impact mitigating measures that we really set out for all stakeholders. So this is sort of a regular report on risk management activities and outcomes. One of the things have to really emphasize is about risk ownership and accountability. If you don't really assign risks to a certain teams or individual, then it will not really be looked after. So it should be there should be ownership of that risk, and the ownership really make sure that it is accountable for really addressing that risks. And then we have to really agree on risk tolerance, define the project risk tolerance level, that is the level of risk that the project team and stakeholders are willing to accept. Okay, so these are the principles. So project teams can effectively manage risks throughout the project life cycle and reduces the likelihood and impact of potential risks. So these are key elements in there. Okay, so we're gonna really identify risks. We're gonna really look at the possible um, risk assessment is and the level of impact is, mitigating measures, and how do we communicate. All these principles needs to be really looked at properly. So, in terms of the characteristics of risk, is it what is really this probability of happening? What is the likelihood that the risk event will occur? This can be as a percentage or a probability distribution. what is really the impact of it, what the potential consequence of effects of a risk event, both in terms of cost and schedule delays. So remember, if it's really in any project, what we do is cost benefit analysis. If the cost is too high, the benefits stay the same. So the cost benefit analysis is going to tell us it's not really worth the while to continue to work on this project. The project must really be suspended. So it is a sort of a trade-off. So the benefits and costs. And what is really the severity of the consequences of this? The degree to which risk event will affect the project's goals or objective. So scale from low to high, you're gonna really measure it in that way. And the fourth one is its controllability, the extent to which a risk can be mitigated or controlled. So this is often assessed by the availability of resources, expertise, and technology. So to what level we are capable of managing that risk. How do we really control? That heavily depends on the resource available, expertise, and technology. So the other key characteristics of risk is the time frame, the duration for which risk event may occur. So and the time available to implement mitigating strategies. So interdependencies is the key other element. Does really one risk really have some elements that really initiate other risks? So when a risk event occurs, is there any interconnection to other risks project activities? So this interdependency can increase the complexity of risk management and require more sophisticated modeling and analysis techniques. So this is really an important element of it. Okay, when after identifying risks, one thing which you really should really do is there any interdependency between all these risks? If so, if one is really happening, most probably the other is going to happen. So that really helps us in terms of managing and planning of the risks. Cost, the financial impact of risk event, including the cost of mitigating and recovery. Look, cost, this can be a positive as well. Okay, so there might really sort of an event that really helps you to reduce your costs. Okay, so you have to really see it from both sides. So considering these key elements of the measure of for risk in projects, project managers can better understand that. So you, as a project manager, your work is to really better understand the nature and magnitudes of risk and make informed decision about risk management strategies. So where are really risks coming from? So risk for particularly this is general possible risk for information systems projects. This is a well-known risk scope creep. The project scope is not well defined. Requirements can keep changing throughout the project. So how do you really deal with this one? These are huge risks as you expand the scope of the project. It can cause budget overruns and it can cause frustration among team members because of the continuous changes of the scope. Okay, so we have to really keep an eye in terms of scope creep. We're going to have a look at it, how we should really mitigate it. Okay, so lack of stakeholders engagement, this is really an important part of it. Stakeholders are not engaged or involved in the project, leading to misalignment of expectation. So what did they really expect and what you really deliver as a project management team need to be aligned. This alignment has to really be continuously monitored, continuously discussed, presented to stakeholders, that their expectation and what is going to be delivered to them are the misalignment is minimized. The other possible risk source is poor project management. Okay, if it is not really managed effectively, if it is missed deadlines, budget overruns, poor quality, and other issues, this is a huge risk to the project. The other one is technical challenges. Risk projects are really then, new projects, which means in its nature that we can create something new which we haven't done before. So there can be a sort of a technical challenges. There are issues which you might really say, well, we don't really have the technical know-how, so we might really struggle in here in terms of achieving the outcomes, what we're really doing, the deliverables which we want to really give to our customers. So these are really the key elements of it in terms of such as software bugs, hardware failures, compatibility issues. These are some of the things that needs really be addressed, looked at. And the other what really technical challenges can really leads to cost overrun. If you don't have the resources, you might really go outside and bring a technical expert that might really include further bring us additional costs. So it might really bring us cost overruns for our project. The other one is in information systems projects, we always have data. Whether this data is really well secured and this privacy is protected is a huge risk. Those once you're developing a systems and the data in terms of transferring the data to a new system, have you really thought of the level of the data, the security of it, the privacy of it? So these are, it might really sort of, you might really have business sensitive data. So how do you really protect that? So these are risks that you should really be careful about. So you can really cause data breach, cyber attacks, unauthorized access. So it might really lead to reputational damage, legal liabilities, and financial losses. So we have to really pay attention to this one. Even though the data is really sitting until systems are really developed, built, and implemented. So the many of the things in terms of risks is change management. So there are a lot of areas that requires change management. So in some terms of business processes, workflows, and systems. So and employees may resist or struggle to adopt the changes, leading to reduced productivity, low morale, and other issues. So you bringing in new information systems whereby it really involves business change management, this you're gonna really struggle are the huge risks in terms of implementation and getting the best out of the project. The other is vendor dependencies. You really bring this systems from or hardwares or softwares from other vendors. So you have to really be careful. What happens if the vendor is not trading anymore? What is, can you really replace that vendor with some other vendors, or is there the risk of the vendor lock-in? So what is the delay of the transfer in there? Or poor quality of work is high, leading to cost overruns, delays, and dissatisfaction. So integration challenges, these are the challenges that really bring us in terms of projects. These are high risks. If your integration doesn't really work with existing systems, it is a huge risk. So this is so the risk of integration failures, data inconsistency, poor performance, high leading to delays, poor quality, and other issues. So each project is unique and may have different risks depending on its specific context and requirement. But what we have discussed in here is sort of a general area, general possible risks for information systems projects. Now we're going to have a look at possible mitigating measure for the above risks, scope creep. So define project scope clearly and to agreement from stakeholder. So if there is a change in the scope, so we have to really develop a change management process and control of scope. So these are key elements. Lack of stakeholder engagement, establish regular communication channel with stakeholder, involves them in key decision, from the early starting point of the project, obtain their buy-in by demonstrating how the project will meet their needs and expectation. The other one is a poor project management. So you really have to really use a well-defined project management methodology, which is this agile, waterfall, and employee experience project managers. So project develop a detailed project plan and monitor progress closely. Technical challenges, these are users through testing and quality assurance process. Engage experienced developers and technical experts. Design to develop the system. Okay, plan for contingency and a risk management plan in place. The other one is data security and privacy for the data. Employ robust data security and privacy measure. Data encryption is one of the things. Access control, regular security audit. Follow data protection regulation such as GDPR or HIP if applicable. The other one, risk possible mitigating measure for change management, is develop a change management plan and obtain a buy-in from employees and other stakeholders. Communicate the benefits of the changes and provide adequate training and support. Vendor dependency, conduct through due diligence when selecting vendors or consultants. Establish clear expectation requirement. Have a backup plan in case of vendor failures. The other one is a sort of integration challenges. Develop a well-defined integration plan and engage experienced developer and technicals to implement it. Test the integration thoroughly and have a contingency plan in case of integration failure. These are just some of the possible mitigating measures for information systems, project risks, and measure of implementability. Specific risk identified in the project unit requirement and context. So these are some of the mitigating measures. Thank you for your attention. If you have really comment, I'm happy to hear that. I hope this really gives you some level of creating and mitigating measures for your project. Thank you for your attention.